gonna take on the world.
All right, guys, we are live again. This is the Third Eye Truth Theorem Podcast, episode 191. Thank you for joining us. I am James Gill, your host. Joe Hill, co-host, without his wine today.
You had to call that out?
Shocking surprise.
They didn't have it. They didn't have it.
Dr. Pepper today. I'm amazed, man. Thank you for being sober.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's gonna be a lot different show.
Guys, welcome thank you for joining us tonight. We have a special guest on tonight. Tonight we have the president of WSJM Inc., Dave Deutsch. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello.
I got it right.
You did.
Yes, I nailed it. First try.
No, I'll talk about the buttons.
And the buttons too. Oh, it's been a long week, Last time we were talking, guys, the New York Knicks won the championship.
Yeah.
The White House had a bunch of mad fights on the lawn, and now we're here. Another week.
It's so weird they had fights on the lawn.
Yes.
Jalen Brunson went to my high school.
Did he really?
Did he
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Won a state championship in
That's in Chicago,
2015.
right?
Yeah, just north of the city.
Yeah.
Stevenson High School.
Wow. Small world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Small world.
Crazy.
That is kind of cool.
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah, I forgot the Hurricanes won the championship this weekend as well.
Oh,
well,
Yeah.
I missed
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah, I totally forgot. I was going to say that.
Wasn't
In my head.
Sorry. It wasn't Mark's.
Cool.
Well, thank you for
Thank you.
inviting me. It's
No
great
problem.
to be here.
No problem.
So, Dave, so people know who you are in the area. Where'd you grow up at? The little
Well-
background and high school,
Yeah.
and what your title is. And
All right. Well, we'll go back. I grew up just north of the city of Chicago. You got to be careful. You can't say you're from Chicago and then you're, from 16 miles outside of the city. People have a nervous breakdown over it. So, but I grew up in a town called Half Day that unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. But if you go north of the city, there's a road that still says Half Day Road. And as I was saying, on that road is Stevenson High School, which is where I went to school, and left school in 1988 and really never went back to that area. I've been gone ever since. I went to Valparaiso University for a few years, had a football scholarship, but blew out both my knees in the 80s, which was pretty much, you're done.
Yeah.
And so transferred, went up to a little college called Winona State University in Winona, Minnesota, right on the Mississippi, south of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And accidentally got into radio. I was actually early in computer digital design and editing and so forth. And somebody on a project asked me to do a voiceover for their project. I did it, and the DJ from the college station heard it and offered me a job. That then a couple months later got me offered a job at a little local radio station, KWNO AM 1230 Winona. So
That's a mouthful.
it is, yeah. That was a radio station that had talk, oldies, Paul Harvey, and polka. And when I was on the air originally, I had to co-host the polka show.
Old
So-
Harv?
Oh yeah.
Actually, he's
Paul
coming up-
Harvey.
Yeah.
Paul Harvey.
Paul
Harvey.
Oh,
yeah,
Paul.
he's from. He was a big national,
Yeah.
radio guy back in the day. He's long since gone. So yeah, and in that era in Minnesota, I was known as Chicago Dave when I was on the polka show. And but being an on-air personality was the equivalent of a starving artist. So I kept saying, "Hey, who are the people driving the nice cars?" And they're like, "Well, those are the salespeople." Let me do that. Nope. Nope. They kept pushing me back, and then finally they're like, "All right, we'll let you do it, but commission only. You got to keep your air shift." And I was still going to school and at Fleet Farm, which nobody should do, and I think a Chicago kid in the ag department. I don't know what I was doing, and then I got into sales, and it just kind of stuck. So I did that for a while there, and then I moved on to Mankato, Minnesota, and worked there for 3 years in sales, and got into sales management when I was just 24. Crazily, when I look back on it. And then I came to my first stint in Southwest Michigan. I came here in 1996 in a unique role of local sales manager and WIRX morning show co-host. And I
Yeah.
did that for about 3 years on the air, but kept rising in the ranks on the management side. And then I took off and went to Grand Forks, North Dakota. Again, wouldn't recommend anybody does that. It's a very unique place. I was there for only 18 months, and then I went to Springfield, Illinois, still in radio. Went back on the air, was on the air and doing, was director of sales. So it was kind of a unique, crisscross. And then came back here in 2010 as general manager. And then in 2015 was also elevated to president. And then just back in March of this year, I removed the general manager title and gave that to John Spillman, who's actually moving here today. He's been working here, but he's been kind of commuting. He's lived north of Indy. And now I'm just in the president's role as I do other work for stations that I also have involvement in Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and then here in Michigan. So
I was always amazed, ever since I grew up in this town, on everything that the radio station has. They're from isn't the main, pretty much the main source out of Wisconsin.
Well, it's kind of a unique company, really. When I share with people how the company is set up, they're always like, "Wow, I've never heard of that before." So the original company built radio operations. So WSJM came into existence in 1956. It got its license, and a company had to come in and build the tower and build the studios. Well, that was Walker Communications. A couple of years later, the people who got the license, the Walker Communications, had learned that they didn't want it anymore. So his son wanted to get into radio. So he got into a partnership with his son and started Midwest Family. And the idea was, people will mistake it and say, well, your family values and all this, but you got WIRX and it's all this edgy stuff. And it's like, no, family is a misnomer. It's really a family of radio operators. And then the thing that was kind of cool that lured me in was the company I worked for in Mankato, Minnesota. I was growing and I was like, how do I become an owner? And they said, well, what's your last name? And I'm like, what? Like, what's your last name? And I said, Deutsch. Their names were Nolan. And they're like, yeah, you have the wrong last name. You're not going to own any of this. And so,
wow.
Yeah, they actually said that to me. Yeah, it happened. And then I heard about this company, Midwest Family, and it's a family of ownership, which is if you get involved, you work hard, prove yourself, they'll open up the door for you to buy stock, and then it has its own kind of GMAC inside of it.
Yeah.
And you can borrow and take loans out to get your stock purchase. And then the performance of the company is what pays for the stock. You put a little skin into it, but it's not a ton because they're looking at everyday, individuals working for them and saying, we want you to be a part of it. So it was just a unique model, and that got me in. And, all these years later, now I'm, the second largest owner in WSJM. So it's, kind of wacky that happened.
Yeah.
There was no lottery ticket or,
it's a lot of hard work.
It's like the Green Bay Packers.
a little bit like the Green, even though I'm a Bears fan.
I know.
But there's
But yeah, it's just like
there's
that.
a-
How they,
yeah.
the city owns people in the city owns Green Bay. Same thing with that. That's
Everybody
kind
can
of
buy
cool.
stock
Yeah.
in that.
That's kind of cool though.
Yeah. So because of that, the operations elsewhere in the group are their own companies, their own incorporated entities, and we all do business as Midwest Family. So I said, I'm WSJM Inc. Most people would be like, I've never heard of that. I've heard the radio station, but no, the incorporated name is that because that was what started it back in the 50s. And,
cool.
but Midwest Family Marketing and Media is what we've evolved to. Because what does WSJM mean? They'll think it's just the one station and they'll misunderstand it. So
you said you were here before.
yeah, for 4.5 years.
Who
Yeah.
are you co-host for?
I was with John and Robin.
Okay.
When it was John Jay and Robin.
Yeah.
Robin Van Dyke. Yeah.
Yep. Actually, I know Robin.
Yep. We
Yeah.
did the broadcast. The infamous moment for us was I ran in my underwear across the bridge, and that got national coverage. Yeah. What ended up happening is John comes to me and he says, hey, Packers are playing the Broncos in the Super Bowl, and everybody knows the Packers are going to win. So we're going to do this bit where you're going to take you're going to take the Packers, and I'll take the Broncos, and I want to lose So I have to run across the bridge and we'll get all this exposure. And I'm like, all right, great. And then the shtick was Robin got to buy the underwear you had to wear. Well, this is like January back then, right?
Yeah.
That's when the Super Bowl was. Freezing going across the Blossom Time Bridge. And well, that ends up that the Broncos win. So now I got to run across the street. So we go up to where Zoop is and all that stuff. There was right in that area was a coffee shop at the time before all those guys were there. And we did the big unveiling of the underwear I had to put on, and then I had to go in the bathroom and put it on with boots, and then I had to run across. Well, then it gets national exposure, right? It got all over the press, and and so John was pretty mad that he had the right idea, but I was the one that got the attention, right? So, and then the other thing that was cool that we got to do we did a lot of fun stuff, a lot of shenanigans, but not long after the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame opened up in Cleveland, we got to go do the show from their studios in Cleveland. So that was a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
So yeah, so we were enjoying that and having a good time, and
I remember
playing radio.
I do remember John Jay's show and his show lasted a while.
No, it was on for a long time.
Yeah.
He was on probably 18 years, something like that.
Yeah, it was close to 2 decades.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize it went on that long.
Yeah.
Which is kind of rare for a small town.
Yeah.
On a rock station, typically in the world of radio, the idea is you're going to be a starving artist until you can move up the chain. So if you're any good, then you're going to go from Southwest Michigan to a Lansing, and then Lansing to an Indy, and then Indy to a Detroit, or so you just keep moving. That's the whole angle that you take, is you're going to keep moving, and you're going to keep rising
until
to
you
bigger
get Chicago
cities till
or
you
New
get
York,
where the real money is at. Yeah.
Wow.
I never really thought about that.
I admit I never knew that. I love this is why I love doing this podcast, man. You learn so much stuff from different people, and you just like open our eyes to something totally different. That the shenanigans behind the scenes, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and when I started in radio, it was still 45s.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go in, pull your records,
That's
clean
what I
them,
used to love.
go in, get them ready, backtrack them, all that good stuff. So you were busy. So it's over the years, it went from you were done at night doing your shift, and you were tired because you're running around doing stuff. And today they just sit there at times and wait for the computer to fire, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm exhausted." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
I know that.
I had to go run outside, shift the satellites. You just went and hit a button.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right.
You must be winded.
When I had an opportunity, actually, when I was DJing at I think it was Heartland back then.
Yeah.
And U93 had an open spot for Morning Guy. So he was just cruising around the local scene and see who could play music and and the voice and everything else. But I had a partner. So me and him are going back and forth. I'm playing the music mostly because that's what I loved, seeing people dance. And he's on the mic hyping them all up, being the hype man and taking a request. And all of a sudden the guy approaches us and says, "Hey, I have a morning show opening up. Would you like to do it?" I went, we both went, "Yeah, this would be awesome. Hell yeah." And he says, "But I only got a spot for one because it's not the same like it used to. It's just one guy hitting a button pretty much." I went, and he says, "So who's got the mic right now?" I went, "He does." He says, "I want him." He's got the mic. He's got the voice. He's got the hype up. And now he's very well known. It's DJ Sticky Boots.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in the 90s. Yeah,
In the olden days.
yeah, that's when music was fun. So yeah, he got the gig and got the limelight, and comes back time to time and does proms and everything else, and comes in town. So yeah. He's a good guy though. I have no hard feelings for him.
And that's pretty common that people accidentally get in the business.
Yeah.
There used to be a time where you had broadcasting schools in Detroit, Chicago, Minneapolis, Indy. There would be a broadcasting school. So you could do that, or you can go to college, and the way you would kind of intertwine, and there was really no radio program, but you would get into telecom and then if you wanted to, you could go work at the college station, which is, kind of the route I went. And if you're either you make a tape and you start sending out the tape, or somebody hears you.
Yeah, so did Zach. I mean, Zach went to school for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
He always told me he went to school for it.
Yep. But it's rarer today.
Were you surprised when they offer you a job when you were in college?
I was really surprised.
After
Yeah,
hearing your
like,
voice on the radio.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up listening to the big jocks in Chicago, right? Like Larry Lujak and Fred Winston and Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer and all this stuff. So it's, we idolized those guys. And Patty Hayes was another one. So it's, getting that, you're like, oh, that'd be awesome. That's great. Until you're doing an overnight shift. And you're learning the ropes, and it's like, is anybody out there? Right? They'd call, but it was just a little bit of it was you had to be able to push yourself a little bit to seize on the openings, because you weren't going to live off of it. So you had to build. You had to build and make sacrifices to do it.
What was it like to work on the polka station? How did you handle that?
Well, it was interesting. The guy who hosted it was famous. I mean, he was beyond famous. You guys were talking about Pat Moody when I walked in. This guy was 5 times Pat Moody when it came to celebrity, right?
Oh, really?
But this guy, his name was Ernie Reck, and he had a lisp. But so he's, hey, this is Ernie Reck. Yeah. And Ernie had such royalty that he had built up a studio at his house. So he was remote at a time when people weren't remote.
Right.
So you would go into the studio and you would wait, you'd be listening, and then you would have to have it in cue in your one ear. And then all of a sudden it'd be like, hello, is that Chicago Dave? Dave, we got to pull records, Dave. And I'm like, all right, Ernie, what are we doing? And so we got to get the Packerland polka, and we've got to get this polka. And then I'd have to go pull them and get them all set up and everything. But he was a lot of fun because he would engage with you. A lot of the other jocks, they didn't. They were trying to get their own appeal, their own shtick. But Ernie was really kind, and he kind of brought you in. And then like I said, he played off of the whole Chicago Dave thing, because at that time I still had a pretty thick Chicago accent. That's kind of gone over the years, but I had it. So that kind of was fun as he would play off of it. And so then I would go with him at times to do these live broadcasts, because he was used to me working with him. He's like, oh, I want Dave. Get Chicago Dave to come with me. And there'd be lines of people to meet this 75-year-old guy who was a polka king, right? It was like, I never saw this before. It was wild, but it's a memory I'll never forget. So,
oh man, I don't know if it's polka, but that one song that did
Roll Out the Barrels.
Dance wherever.
That's chicken dance. That's not
chicken
polka.
dance wherever. That's not polka.
It's not, but but polka people could.
It sounds like it. I mean, this is why I was so confused. How much polka music is there in the world?
A lot.
I'm sure it is a lot.
If you go to certain parts of the country, there's far more of it than you ever realized.
Have you ever been to Frankenmuth?
No, I haven't.
Go up there.
And they have tons of polka.
They have polka because it's polka is, in my eyes, what I was taught through my family is it's German. It's more German based. And Frankenmuth is a big Christmas town, yes.
Right.
But it's also a big heritage of German type of atmosphere. So
okay.
Well, and then when I moved on to Mankato, Minnesota, I'm like, all right, that was a small town. This is a little bit bigger. It was the home of the Viking summer camp, a Minnesota Viking summer camp. You had it was Mankato State at the time, but because of the TV show Coach, they changed it to Minnesota State.
Yeah.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that TV show.
I love that show. I love that show.
And so, well, then, I get to town. There's, okay, what are the radio stations? What are we dealing with competitively wise? And they're like, oh, well, then there's the polka dance contest show that's on the CBS affiliate every Saturday night. And I'm like, what? The most popular advertised show was a 1-hour polka dance competition that was on the CBS affiliate every Saturday night. And then they would take it on the road live and they'd get sponsors and all this stuff.
Wow.
Everybody wanted to be a part of this. And it was people in like these vests for their teams, right? They had like clubs and they would compete, and there'd be a winner every week, and the winner would get the points, and the points would go on in the season and all this stuff. And I'm like, where am I? I didn't really witness that where I came from. So it was unique, but interesting at the same time.
That's insane. That's insane how many people out there was listening to polka.
Yeah, in that area.
A big following there.
Mm-hmm.
I would never think that. Like you said, how many songs out there? Yeah, there are
Yeah,
a lot
I-
of songs out there, but in my eyes, I would never want to listen to it.
Not necessarily. It's not my cup of tea, but you know it when you hear it.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it has its own distinct sound, and people that like it, they definitely
Well,
follow. So
John Candy traveled a lot on it.
Oh,
when-
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
In
he was
Home
really,
Alone.
yeah. He was actually that was a real life.
okay.
So, one was your favorite?
Favorite. Well, when I worked in Springfield, Illinois, we had a lot of interesting experiences because it ended up a loop for one thing where people, celebrities of some sort, often musicians, Chicago, at least ended up on the way to the radio station. And we then figured out, well, wait a minute, if they're coming through, we could probably put on some concerts. And so we opened up a concert venue and started running our own
Yeah.
shows. And that was a lot of fun because then you got to interact with a lot of the bands,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And and some were a little bit different than you would expect. So, we had this kind of soft hit station and it was Christmas. So we brought in Dionne Warwick. So you got
Wow.
to spend a little time with Dionne Warwick, right? This legend,
Yes.
or let's see, we brought in Little River Band, right? And everybody knows Little River Band. I mean, Yacht Rock today, I mean, they're like a mainstay, big
Right.
time, right?
I
And
met
these
them.
guys come in and you're just hanging out. They're regular folks, right? Survivor, came in. We did
Yeah.
a small little thing with this 80s show, and we had Survivor, and we had The Firm, and we
that's a good
had oh gosh, Don't You Want Me, Baby? I can't remember.
Scott,
Escaping me, and
he's got a
human.
he just
Yeah, and so for like one day I come into the building and I go up to the front desk to drop a piece of paper off, and there's the Beeve Mathers is just sitting in the lobby, and I'm like, "Morning, good morning," and so you're like, "Hey, need some coffee?" "No, I'm good, thanks." So there was just all this
Yeah.
kind of Stephen Bishop, musician. He was actually in Animal House and
Yeah.
wrote some of the music for Animal House. We brought him in for a show. We couldn't get him to leave. He came to the radio station like 3 days
Yeah.
early, had the show. He stayed like 4 days after. We're like, he won't go away, right? But he had all these great stories. Colin Hay from Men at Work, got to hang out with him.
Really?
John
Oh.
Waite.
I'm
Really?
I met John Wayne. It's a cool.
And then another element that was the guy that owned Hustler was friend, and so they would send us porn stars to come do interviews on the air to promote them in the area, right? So that would be
Joe's
another,
alley.
yeah, and so that would be
Trying to get
crazy
someone on the show like that. They're
Because-
not answering me.
because we actually ended up having a problem because they kept coming in, and then the girls would like hear about it, and they'd
Yeah.
3 or 4 would come. Then they would take all their clothes off and want to run around the building, and it's like you can't do that.
Yeah.
So here's Jerry Mathers and a porn star running around, and stuff like that would happen, right? It really would. And so that was where that place was quite the memory. I remember so I bounced when I was younger, much younger, and so we'd do these concerts, and you would have to settle up at the end of the night, right?
Yeah.
How many people came through, how much booze, merchandise, who's taking what cut. And then I'd always have to be, because I was the sales manager at the time, but I was still in my 30s. And they're like, all right, Dave, you have to dress up, look bigger, look big. You're a big guy, but look big. And, if there's any trouble, you're going to have to rough a few people up. I'm like, I haven't been in a fight in 15 years. I'm going to do one at the back of a concert venue at 3 a.m. or whatever it was. Never really came to that, but it was kind of funny. So, yeah.
Wow, you haven't met a lot of people too. I mean, ever since around here, I met a lot because of Venetian and everything else. So I understand where you're coming from when these people and everything else. I mean, because Gail was was president then, and where your job was, and he was part of Venetian all through it from beginning to end. I do believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, even when we had Wild Bill on, he told us about the people that was Venetian and everything else. And actually, he said you would be a good show to have on too, because he promoted you actually. But I mean, all these people that were around here, I understand. I mean, they're just cool people just to hang out with. So,
Speaking of Wild Bill, he hated me one day.
Why?
Hated me. Well, just let's see. It would be back up the road over here. So, over where the CVS is, there's a billboard on the CVS side.
Yeah.
Okay. And I convinced him to go up and do his billboard up on top of there. And until the broadcast had to happen, and he went up there, and he ended up getting fear from being up high, right?
Oh, really?
That he actually laid down and didn't want to do anything, and somebody had to go up and help him back down. We had to hire a truck because we did it with ladder. I'm not coming back down. There's a bucket truck to get him out of there. I had to call I can't remember what was going on the shtick we were doing, but yeah, I remember that. He wanted to kill me. He wanted to, but it was like, Bill, you said it was cool. You were fine with it till he was up there. And then suddenly he was like, this is a lot higher than I thought. Yeah,
It is a little higher than you think, I would say.
Yeah.
Plus the wind.
It's windier.
Yeah.
And then you realize there's really no structure up here. There's nothing for me to hold on to.
Right.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I could see
Damn
that.
you, Dave.
Yeah. I remember that day clear as a bell.
Oh, it's okay. It looks good from down here.
He's laying down up there on his belly. I'm like, what are you doing?
Scared out of his mind. Terrified.
Get me down.
Oh,
Get me down. I thought he was joking.
actually, we could ask him that story too when he comes back on. He wants to come back.
It's no problem.
With then, is this something that you thought, wow, you look back on your life and thinking,
crazy because it had different eras, and in Southwest Michigan, having been here twice, and then this is the longest I've been anywhere since I was a kid. I mean, I stayed home till I was 18. Been here for going on 17 years, so it's kind of wild that the longest tenure in between. And you get to a certain point where it's like, where did all this time go? Like, how did this, right? And then you start kind of looking back at it and all the little moments and the unique elements and things of that nature. And, what happens next? How does it evolve? Radio in particular, right? There's a lot of people who unfortunately, want to keep saying that radio's dead and radio's dying. And it's just far from the truth. I mean, has it changed? Absolutely. We're not naive to think it hasn't changed. But the tech companies, and this is something that I talk about a lot around the country now, is the tech companies have tried many times to do what radio does, and they can't do it. There was Apple Radio, there was Amazon Radio, there's been, why? Well, radio is a very community-centric entity. It is intertwined in a community. And when the big tech companies try to duplicate it, they can't get that part. You can play the music, but they can't get those elements that make me say, this is where I'm from. Right. And, I know people who grew up in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and like we were talking about polka music, they'll listen to polka music and they'll feel like home. Right. And so there's things that intertwine that make it so. And, I challenge people to think, all right, what if it wasn't here? Missing, right? Sees the new one. Those is the people, had the air and probably well over a decade, maybe even 15 years, remember, right? She was on IRX and then went over to the coast. Yeah. And she was there for a long time. And, people still remember. And we're still doing that today. I mean, Ken Lumberg is on every morning on WSJM, and I'll have people be out for coffee with bankers and so forth. Like, I was listening to Ken and he was talking about this and that and the other thing, and oh, wow. So those personalities still connect. And then, simple little things like covering high school football.
Yeah.
Right. It just makes it feel like it's from here. right? Or news. You know, the news operation that happens in our building,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we're out on the streets covering stories every day, or people are calling us or emailing us or whatever. Hey, this is going on. You know, you should, you know, follow up on this. So it's helping people know what's happening, right? You know, but music has changed. You know, music was very generational. You had 50s and 60s, and the 60s was the early 60s and the psychedelic 60s, and then the 70s and disco, and then 80s
Yeah.
was broken up into the hair and MTV and Madonna, and then 90s grunge, hip hop, all that kind of stuff, right? So you have all these eras, but around the time that you get to 2008, the era's ended. And now it's just this big amalgamation of music,
Yeah.
right? To the point where I'll talk to, you know, friends of mine's kids, and they'll be like, "Hey, Dave, I heard this great new song," and I'm like, "That's Bad Company from the '70s, Rock and Roll Fantasy. That is not a new song, but to
Yeah.
them, it's a new song,
Right.
because they've never heard it
Never.
before."
Yeah.
See,
Exactly.
that's
right?
what we were talking about earlier in a couple shows before. How I always get mad when I see these college kids that are pretty much my daughter's age singing
Something like Sweet Caroline.
Sweet Caroline or
Yeah.
Journey or anything
Don't
like
Stop
that.
Believing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hearing this because they play it at the stadiums or they
Right.
play it at your college. You don't even know who probably sings it, who's in the band, or what's the meaning behind all these songs that they're singing galore.
Right.
Maybe you might get a handful, yes, because of their parents, but their singing is what we grew up on.
Right. But
And
we grew up on it, you know, in a different way, right? That was
Yeah.
my brother's music.
Yeah.
That's my parents'
Yeah.
music. That's even maybe my grandparents' music,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah,
They don't look at it that way.
No.
They don't. So is that good or is that bad? You know, I think it'll shift at some point, you know, and personally, I think a new genre of music will unfold altogether from all of it, right? You know, and it's not surprising because look what happened during the hip hop era and how much music was sampled,
Yeah.
right? So sampling was already the first wave of that, right? You know, I was just watching reel that was showing and House of Pain from '90s, right?
Yeah.
Jump around
Doesn't Jump Around, other song that they did that was popular.
in Insane the Membrane.
I think it was Cypress Hill.
Yeah, that was Cypress
That
Hill.
one's
But
Cypress
what
Hill.
was wild is when they went to this song, it was all Motown music.
Yeah.
Everything inside of it was Motown music. And you're thinking, you know,
Well, I've heard this song
you know,
before.
this
Yeah.
is amazing. This
Yeah.
is great. And it was just lifted, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, music is changing. So therefore that's impacting radio. But talk radio is still popular. Country music is incredibly popular.
That's always
Yeah.
gonna be
You know,
popular.
Yeah.
And, you know, rock's going through a bumpy time right now, but really it is only because, and we in the rock world know it, the record labels tried to kill it.
Yeah.
And they tried to kill it because the bands got so powerful. The artists in rock got so powerful that they could push back against the record labels, and the other artists don't do that. So they're like, we're just going to make rock, you know, you guys can keep listening to the Rolling Stones. They're still out there. Go do it.
Yeah.
But we're not introducing new stuff. And so that kind of affects what happens in how people are listening, especially when rock was the prevalent music on radio. You had pop and you had classic rock and new rock and all that. And all that stuff is kind of shifting now.
You
You know,
think
and country's actually becoming a bit rockish in its own
It
way.
is.
You know,
A little-
Eagles and all that kind of sound.
More pop
Yeah.
type
Oh, yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
do you think satellite radio pretty much is helping you guys or killing you guys?
I think it's just another option for people. I don't see it as a heavy direct competitor, because what I think happens with satellite is if it's an individual who says, I'm going to travel around the country, I'm going to be in multiple places, I don't want to have chase radio stations or find these little local radio stations that are far too local and simple, or, you know, not really to my taste. So satellite kind of feeds into that. But then people don't realize that Sirius XM bought Pandora.
Yep.
And Pandora, and that's their foray to try to go up against Spotify. Spotify just celebrated its 20th anniversary.
It's only 20 years
20th
old.
Spotify is 20 years old.
That's
And
it.
only in the last 2 years has it made a profit.
Really?
Last 2 years.
I still use Spotify here and there, time to time. I do it for my daughter, just because
I totally forget about Spotify because I don't really use it as much. I listen
I don't
more
either.
radio than anything nowadays, and
Yeah.
especially when I'm in my car.
Mhm.
Because I mean, you could always program your favorite radio stations, right?
Yep.
And I have a little country, I have a little bit of everything that I can listen to, and it's I don't know, it suits me when I'm driving. So,
And I think what's happened with Spotify in the last few years is they weren't making money. Well, why weren't they making money? Well, Spotify and Pandora and the streaming services with the record labels have to pay 51 cents on the dollar of their money that they make in
wow,
copyright and royalties.
Yeah.
11%. That was the deal made in the so radio is forward. Now it's still the second largest expense that we have in our operation. So they're always complaining that they're not getting paid. We're getting this money coming out of our building outside of payroll. So I would rather I fired people so I could pay you more, I guess. But
right.
but that's
Sorry, Ted.
yeah, that's the challenge that Spotify or Sirius and all of them have had. So that's why you see Spotify today trying to create AI music. That AI music circumvents that royalty, right? And then the other thing that they've done because of the royalties is they squeeze the amount of artists they play, so they're paying less to certain artists, right? And to certain, so people don't realize that some artists are under ASCAP and some artists are under BMI and some artists are under GMR, and there's like 5 of them, right? So if I don't, wait a minute, so this list, I don't have to pay them if I don't play any of them? Right. Well, they're just kind of tag-alongs anyway, so we're not going to play them, and we're not going to pay that royalty. The streaming services do that all the time, and if you listen, you'll suddenly find, why am I in this small loop of about maybe 35 or 40 artists that are really the core of what they're throwing at me? Because then they can circumvent having to pay royalties.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so people are like,
figured
oh,
that
I
out,
can listen to way more music. No,
No,
really
you can't.
listen.
Right.
Listen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really listen. You take like
Yeah.
our station, The Lake here, which I take a lot of pride in because I helped personally build it. And, you know, that radio station has 2,200 songs in its library.
You created the lake?
Yeah.
I like that station.
And the idea was, you know, most radio stations will have 600-700 songs in the library, and they're moving in and out like 200 to 250 of them, right? And they're kind of bringing them in, bringing them out, you know, matching it up and trying to please you. So they want to hear this, you know, some of the same stuff. But even there, you're looking at 600-700 songs compared to Spotify. When you get into a genre and you come to find out, there's maybe 42 artists playing.
Wow.
See it. Pay attention.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
people are like, you're right. I'm kind of trapping me into this. And you don't know it because you're busy. You know, radio, passive, attentive, and it's you know, because it's passive, it'll go through the prefrontal cortex, go to your right brain, and go to the memory part of your brain faster. So you know about songs, lyrics. You don't even know
'cause you're
why.
listening to them over and over.
Right.
I
Son of a
actually, I do
bitch.
understand that. I do understand that because at work at Ace, when we don't put the Ace music on, we got tired of hearing the same 6 songs, 7
Yeah,
songs, but
yeah.
we put on another one on online, and new turtle boxes that we're trying to sell, so they sound like, and go from there. And we found a station that has no commercials, and you can cuss word songs and all that stuff and different genre. But if you play a station around, I started at probably around like 7 o'clock in the morning. Around noon, you're hearing the same, you're repeating the songs. You already heard it twice. So after a while, I hear it the third time.
Tired of the song.
Yeah, I'm tired of the station.
Yeah.
Find a new station
Yeah.
and everything else. But yeah, you hear the same. You will hear the same songs looping around over and over.
That makes more sense now that you said it that way. You broke it down to they're
The
only
science.
playing so many songs and they constantly loop it So
Yep.
you hear them over and over again.
Yep. And then instead of paying 5 royalties,
Yeah.
they're paying 2.
I can see that.
And then you also see these artists, and another factor to it is some of the artists go back in and recut the songs. And they've, I'm sorry, but they're 35 or 40 years older than they were when they first sang the song. And back when they were younger, they had real pipes.
Yeah.
Now they don't have the pipes. If you ever notice that in Spotify too.
Yeah.
And so, well, why do they do that? Well, the artists negotiated with Spotify that I don't want the record label to make my money. I don't allow you to do my new version. It's not the one I remember. Right?
Insane.
Doesn't sound, I give you credit for doing it, but if I listen to the song, I want to hear this I like. And people can say, well, that's it's still the same person. Yeah, but it's not the
It's
same.
the same,
It
yeah,
just
it's
doesn't
not-
have that same kick to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it hard to find new gimmicks for the radio stations, for any of the radio stations, like the morning show or the drive at 5 or whatever it is?
Well, it's actually the
is it
biggest,
hard?
the biggest challenge you find today is finding. Again, they're not developing like they once did through this.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
talent is the one who would come up with those ideas, right? They're the ones that are like, oh, we could do this, or what if we tried that, and so forth. And that's the part that's kind of what I'd like to see come back. I'd like to see more creative people that want to play and have fun and try some things and do some things different. It's just been harder to find them, and especially when you do find them elsewhere in the country, and you're like, hey, come to Southwest Michigan. And it's not that they're against it, but it's a small town, right? So they're
Yeah.
trying to look at, I'm going to do this. Am I going to build my portfolio, or how long am I going to stay? So it's a little bit more challenging, because in the past you could say this would be good because we know people, we can get you into Lansing, we can get you into here. Well, that's changed in the business as well. You don't get them to come through here. So finding the talent is harder. What I'd like to see is us finding a way to communicate with people in the community to help us find local talent that would be like, oh, I'd love to be on the radio. Because radio is, very similar to what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
The difference is you're going to probably, depending on the station, you're going to have news, you're going to have some segments, you're going to have weather, then you're going to have some feature elements and so forth. And, then maybe we'll be live somewhere, something's going on, things of that nature, but it's very similar. And then we can take a break and go to music and come back depending on the format. So
That's one thing I loved about most of the morning shows on WRX. They had a gimmick, like when Jason Lee was on.
Mhm.
He talked, and him and Catfish and everything else. And Hunter,
Catfish.
yeah.
I miss
Yeah.
Catfish. Good man.
Oh yeah, and Hunter and all of them they could feed off each other. Like how everybody says how we bicker back and forth.
Mhm.
They said, yeah, we love how you guys bicker back and forth. You guys just feed off each other. And I said, yeah, well, I've known the guy almost for 2 decades, so yeah, we pretty much
Yeah.
know the ins and outs of each other. But the thing that I was going with it was you got to have that atmosphere with that person in the morning show. You just can't grab this guy and then you can have him be your sidekick. Well, I don't know who this guy is.
So it takes time to
Yeah.
bond,
Build
have
the
that
chemistry.
that chemistry to build. And
I've known people who hate each other do shows together.
That's the thing.
I spent my career being their referee.
really,
Oh God, that's why I can't be the general manager anymore, because the general manager has to deal with all the babysitting, all
that's the thing.
all the skin knees, and
Bruised
pointing fingers,
egos.
bruised
But you
egos.
can't have that when
You know,
you're on radio, though.
So, but it happens. You'd be
Yeah.
amazed how many people will be like, "Oh, they love each other." No, they don't.
They-
They would love
after the
to
show, I hate you.
murder.
Dude.
Oh, it would happen so many times where they would come in and sit down and want to complain, and the other one would be right behind them going, "Are you in here already?" And then they'd sit, and the two of them would want to bicker in front of me, and I'd have to just listen for a while. And
I mean,
I've had to split up shows. I have.
really.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's just I can see where your dilemma is, where it's hard to find. But I would love to have a morning show again, and just hear people just talk about random stuff in their life,
Current events.
current
things-
events, things going around town. just have fun with that. You don't have that much anymore.
Well, we have 8 here in South Bend, up in South Haven with Cozy. Paul's on the air mornings,
like-
has done
I
that
like Cozy.
for, since 1995, correctly. So it's been nonstop since 1995. We have Ken Lumberg in mornings on WSGM. We got Mark McGill on the air on Sunny live every day down in South Bend. I ended up, again, people doing stuff that's stupid that makes life hard. I had a prior manager who decided to put syndicated shows in the morning shows. And yeah, I mean, it's not the preferred
Sorry to tell you
element. Well, here's what he did. Not only that, he did it, and it didn't work. And he then said he got rid of the shows, and he didn't get rid of the shows. So he stopped airing the shows, and every day somebody's full-time job was removing the commercials out of the syndicated morning show, re-queuing them up, and airing them through the day.
I can see that.
And it's
That's
like,
what-
what? So, so the syndicated shows are on, but I can say this: by November of this year, they will end and they won't be on. So Brock and Kiki will return to mornings on WIRX where they belong, and we have Johnny and Jocelyn that were doing mornings on Y Country. Afternoon, right around Thanksgiving. They come back and
They do it?
they do. Yeah, they were just here
Yeah,
a
we-
couple weeks ago.
You try to get those.
I tried to get,
Brock on.
actually, Brock said he was going to come on. He says, I'm in Wisconsin right now. I can't. I went, what?
They've actually been grown to be so big. They'll probably soon be on all of our radio stations that we own everywhere. So, but they had lived here for little over 8 years. So they still come back and forth here and stay for periods of time with us when we go through the summer, do our promotions, things of that nature. Winter, they don't come as much, but in the summer, they're here a lot.
Yeah, actually, I was trying to get him in the winter.
Yeah, that's the part.
That's- I think I was trying to get him in February.
Yeah.
But if you have them on all your all your stations, isn't that syndicate pretty much just for your guys' stuff?
Yes and no.
All the time. All the
It's
time.
yeah.
all the time, right?
All right.
And the thing that they're on in Springfield, Missouri, where they used to be on the air in Springfield, Missouri. They're on in Madison, Wisconsin. They've been on the air in Madison, Wisconsin. You know, they've been on here and they lived here. So the places that they're on, they'll be not back on, they'll be going on our Rockford stations, which they only live 40 minutes away from. So in that regard, the places that they're on, they still go to. Like when they go to Missouri, Kiki's family all lives in Missouri, so they go down there as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of where they're a very unique because they've lived in the places, they know people, they still go back, they're still involved. So that it gives them a little bit more depth than you would have
Yeah.
somebody who's in Nashville that's never walked into town.
So you're telling me you can't find people that are from this area to be on the radio?
It's not only can't find them, but with enough talent to do it, right? To step up to do it and the talent to do it. You know, I mean, we're wide open to it, but we'll post for jobs and people won't apply from
Oh,
here.
really?
Yeah. I mean, we'll get people from different places, but we don't get them from here. So
To be on the radio.
See the wheels turning in your head. Really?
Really? It's shocking because I know
But
a
I
lot of
think
people
that's
that
gonna-
wanted to.
yeah, but and I'd like to see that happen because that's important. You know, that's the integration. You know, Pat Moody, he talks to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, when
Yeah.
you're on the air, you're a bit of a politician to some degree, except you're not asking to vote for me. I'm asking you to listen to me, right? And so you have to have that kind of persona.
Yeah.
Because that's the other side that's happened too, is some people are like, well, I have the talent, but I don't want to leave my basement. And it's like, no, you got to come in, you got to meet people, you have
Oh,
to
yeah.
engage. You once you get into that mode, people see you as the non-judgmental friend that they can rely on. Well, what do you mean that they can rely on? You're on every day from 6 till 10.
Mhm.
They know it, right? And then at 7:10, you have this bit you do every day, right? Yep. And then if I call in or I text or I email, you always engage me in a positive light. Yep. Your best you do all these.
Yeah.
And so people build this rapport and this. I've experienced it myself, and
Yeah,
you have to be willing to engage that. And that's another thing that's kind of happened with some of the generations where they're like, I just want to do it and disappear. It's like, no.
No, I mean, even look like we mentioned John Jay. He still walks around. People still talk about the show.
Mhm.
People still talk. People with Hunter, they see
Yep.
Hunter walking by. They still mention his show. I mean,
Yeah, I
yes.
didn't want to see Hunter go, but he wanted to kind of chase his dream, and I'm
Yeah.
happy
Yeah.
for him. But
Oh yeah,
I hated to see him go.
and I mean, with all these people that are in this town that stayed in this town, yes, you are in the limelight. Yes, they still know who you are. They still know
Of
the
course.
character. Like you're saying, you build a family inside of a family.
Right.
You might have your haters, you might have everything else, but you're still gonna have those people that's coming up to you even more like we experienced with this show. We went to the grand opening or the grand opening for Planks.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden we're sitting down at the bar waiting for the grand opening, and we had about maybe 10 to 15 people coming up to us all the time.
We listen to your
Oh, we
podcast
listen to
all the time.
podcasts.
So I mean, that right there is a indication that we're doing something right in the
Mhm.
area. So I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if that sounds like a question within the question, but it feels like that people are relating to the stuff that we're putting out. So
Or because people like to know stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in their own backyard.
Oh, yeah.
Like again, when we talk about radio,
Yeah.
excuse me, but people will say, well, I asked my daughter if she listens to radio, and she doesn't, so nobody listens to radio anymore. Well, how old is your daughter? Well, she's 13. Well, one of the things that happened in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, is radio stations stopped trying to serve kids, teenagers.
yeah,
That's true.
Well, why? Because you'd build these audiences, and the advertisers wouldn't want to wouldn't want to advertise to them. So you couldn't survive.
right.
You couldn't make money. So they would just say, well, if you could just reach people who are a little bit older, So every radio station said, well, what do you mean by a little bit older? Well, ideally, I'd like to talk to a 36-year-old woman who's building a family and has a lot of responsibility and needs to buy a lot of stuff. So, and then she's either going to influence the household spend or tell her husband what he can or cannot spend, or whomever, right?
Right.
So that's who you have to. So every format tried to appease to that, to go after the dollars, because they
Yeah.
said that's what we're going to do. Problem is, not every station got the money. So then you saw formats disappear and go away on the one end. And the other side of it is radio wasn't cultivating younger audiences. Now what you see is, because you're going after that 30 to 40-year-old adult, that's when they start coming to radio. That's when they start coming to the information and the podcasts and the other things, because they want to know what the heck's going on around them. They want to understand. And that's just innate for a lot of people. Not everybody, but more
Yeah.
than
Totally agree.
less.
That's a good
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. Did you want to be president? I should ask that question first.
Did I want to be president of the company?
Yeah.
At the time I did.
now you're thinking,
Well, here's the thing. When
What am
I
I getting
when I
myself
first
into?
started in the business, it was a bit like
What am I doing?
WKRP for people who remember that TV
Oh, yeah.
show.
that's why I wanted to get in radio.
Yeah, it was more like that than people realized, right? And so there were a lot of people that were in leadership positions that made me say, I could do better than them, and I'm 23, right? So I kept pushing up the ranks, and I wanted to have more control and have more say and sway. But the thing then you get into those positions is you learn is, no, you're just a conductor with an orchestra playing chain. I mean, the politics. How do you keep everybody rolling? Direction. So, for over a good 12 years, it runs. It's kind of. I've done this. I'm not trying. It happens because all these, whether they're salespeople, whether they're managed, or whether they're talent, a lot of them are type A personalities. They have conviction, right? And trying to not to kill each other. It's something, right? To go going back to happy that was good. I did it because it fed my ego in the moment and make. But all right, I've done that. I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather somebody else did. I'm now the answer. Let's see.
I can see that.
Oh boy, I've seen a lot of it. I mean, I know a lot of some turns because of it.
It's all the DJs that I know. It's been one of those country around here, and even it's amazing what they go through and what they want to do in the area, and they have passion. They have conviction, real life. Well, for example, Jason Lee. I always look like Mr. Burns. And he always said that. He always made himself. He says, "I look like I'm a thin Mr. Burns in real life." And I, he lived next door to my grandpa, and I went. It's all the time I'm on the show, but it was funny. He does. I mean, but that says about his life, his kids, his everything, and
Doing it and see the funny side of his life, and they want to as serious or
People come but they also entertained. Don't forget about everything else. Take a guy. I never got to. I came here 2 months after they separated. Happened right. The and clean up after. Right. Oh, everybody angry and picketing and
yeah,
you know,
people were
it was,
bad.
oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
I remember them telling me, "You can't get this fixed. You can't get this fixed." Hey, just want to come some beer. Let's talk. Yeah. And I know human beings. Just tell them you got beer.
Beer and
You
wings.
guys want to
Yeah.
talk?
I mean, it's amazing around here. People get themselves into and what they want to protest. Everybody, you'll never in the life. One person when I was DJing any place, if I get that one person dancing in their chair, bobbing their head, they didn't want to go on the dance floor with everybody else, but that one person joining the satisfaction, they didn't care. Person that was just as hell and they're Lord. They put that one song that the thumbs up. You always please somebody at one time, and that's why I love doing this with him. Is see the satisfaction in his face when he talks to someone like you. You know, but knowing the story in the background that you had so far, you go. It's not actually to me because this is awesome. They're intriguing.
All right, guys, we're going to top. Hey, guys, we're third night. So we want to all night. Guys, if you're watching phones, please hit the notification. Love to hear from you guys. Guys, we're at a point where we need your subscription to make us a little more space. Please hit a button for the subscribe. And not only that, guys, get involved in the chat. Get involved in the chat. Ask the show.
All right, so Oh yeah. Again.
That's quiet, man.
No,
I'm on it today.
I'm,
He is.
I'm quite impressed. This is amazing.
Over
So, fast track ahead. What is the future of your role, and what would you?
What's allowing me to do not dealing with the day to day. So people do there. Well, I manage the general and I deal with money. So financing and this that kind of stuff, or can just operate and deal with that. I know how beneficial that is because I didn't have that. When I became president, I lost that. Or that I had Yale, he was doing it, but then when I got that, that was all in my. Just make sure you get the hands. But me and some of my partners are committed to what is the next evolution of radio. Now, radio has been around for almost 100 years, 1929. So we're 3 years away from its 100th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, and sometimes people are like, "Well, you know, it's a relic of the past. It's no longer vibrant." Blah 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 blah. Well, okay. Well, what's another entity that came around pretty close to the same time? The NFL. Nobody looks at the NFL that way. Nobody does. Nobody goes, "Well, you know, that's just a leather helmet for folks that
Right.
you know can't compete with Major League Baseball." Right? So it's up to us to have to change what the role of radio is. So I take a step back before we take a step forward. So when I started in radio, I worked for a company that only had an AM radio station. You think about that today, that's crazy because most companies today own many radio stations. So in the mid 90s, the Telecom Act, which was really designed to benefit the internet, had some language companies could buy more than a couple of radio stations. Or I think you could own 2 FMs in a day. That was the most you could own, or maybe it was an AM, depending on the size. So the Telecom Act came in the mid to late 90s, and now you had companies that kind of amorphosized into what is iHeart today, right? And they own thousands and thousands of radio stations, and that is creating networks, syndicated shows, and all this other kind of stuff. And you look at it for us here. When I came in 1996, we had, I think we had 4 stations, and then we ended up buying South Haven stations, and then we bought another signal, and then we were at 7. Then you go to 2015, and we buy 4 signals down in South Bend. Well, now we've got 11 stations. We don't need 11 radio stations. It's just not how the world has shifted. What is going to happen is there was a time in this town, and I know some people still remember it, when it was just HFB and WSJM. That was it. Those were the radio stations in town, and everything was served. It was done very well. That's what's going to happen. You're going to see radio stations, what's proven across the country, the bigger signals, the better signals, further reaching. They still do very well. All these kind of what we call shots or translators are going to go away, and then you'll also see. We're waiting to see how things change in the coming years. But then what's going to be is amorphosized with something like you see on the market with Firewire. Right? And so Firewire people have is kind of the straightforward hard news and putting on the market is kind of the feel. Okay, so you're going to have the feel good news. You're going to have the more straightforward hard hitting news, and then inside of that, you're going to have radio stations. And you won't have the towers. It's my true belief that the towers, for most of the stations, and I still believe a couple signals, the bigger signals will stick around, but everything else will go away. And you'll hear more streaming type stuff and more podcasts and more things of that nature. And then the big stick will be this vehicle to tell everybody to go listen. Check that stuff out. And that becomes the megaphone of the generalities, and then all the deeper dive that people take and go into those apps and engage. I believe this because the activity that already happened. And these commodities that have continued to grow and grow and grow every year. That doesn't happen with local news and local information.
Yeah.
They've both been around for over a decade. And that doesn't typically, then they kind of go through a life cycle and they disappear. They're still growing with usage. And then when we look at our streaming for the radio stations, the place where most of the streaming starts is inside those apps. Is inside the apps. They go inside those apps to listen to the streams of the radio stations. So I fully believe that that's going to be the element that comes in is that this information hub is going to be at this website, it's going to be in this app, and then you're going to have the big signal. And it's going to tell people to go to it, listen, engage, and so forth. And that's where it's like I listen to this. Like we should just get your podcast inside of our app so people can engage it. Right, more local information. Right, another platform for you to get. People to subscribe and that kind of stuff. And that's what should be happening, is that kind of commingling. But the radio station is going to be this kind of promoter, right? It's going to be this and then we'll come. It's a good way of looking at it.
It's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
It's a win for, say, like news does. It's a win for us there. People listen to this. People listen to what you are and what we're doing right now. And then from there, they would listen to the radio station because they're saying, oh, wow, they went from that. And we can go from there. Yeah,
And radio, it is proven that radio is highly effective at getting people to engage with you. So much so that when you look at the top 10 advertisers on radio across the United States every week, Amazon is one of the top advertisers. If not the top advertiser. And you stop for a second and say, why would Amazon need radio? Because they know, right? I was just talking to the guy who's the head of marketing for O'Reilly Auto Parts. When sales are down, you know what the president of O'Reilly tells them to do? Buy more radio. Every time. Buy more radio. Every time. Buy more radio. Guess what happens? Sales
Go up, yeah.
You know, you look at these big digital brands. Progressive, it's online insurance, right? Radio, right? I just heard it the weekend before last. I was in Chicago, so I was listening to in TikTok advertising on the radio. So radio, because the whole world of marketing today, everybody wants to target, but they have forgotten very important word. It's called reach, right? And, targeting means I know you when have you ever? Well, the reach part of it is what gets me to know you exist, and it's tell me why. Right? But everybody wants to target. They're standing right in front of you when it happens, when the moment of glory happens. Only one is going to so what's going to happen with everybody else? So, we have to out-target one another. You can't do it. We were talking lightly before we got businesses have unaided recall brand. And most businesses' brands, sorry, they're garbage. They don't have any unaided recall. And people are like, what do you mean by that? And if I just simply, and I'm going to ask you to think for a second and tell me if you know where the bathrooms are, inside the door into the building. 5 notes.
Yeah.
5 notes. You know where the bathrooms are. You know what the parking lot looks like. You know what's going to be on the screen. And I just gave you 5 notes. How good is your brand?
Messaging.
Yeah, it's and what ends up happening is the brain can be tantalized by a brand, but most businesses don't want to do that. They just want to target. I'm going to target you, and then when I target you, you're going to buy me when it comes time. That's not how it works. It's like you're ready to marry me, and you're going to marry me, and it's like no, nobody would ever say that. That seems a little icky,
Yeah.
right? But brands do whatever.
So, as a trivia thing, I has to write down whatever name, and then what slogan that a slogan that you would never do. And I to writing down and I mean from
Liberty.
Liberty. Yeah, that was one. Now, but that's the one that I hate because of all the commercials, everything online, everything on the radio, everything else out there. They're just so
Advertising Bureau for their commitment. It's funny. I was watching with buddies and while you're watching football, State Farm and Flow. I'll never buy from Liberty. I hate that. And then when the game ended, what were some of the commercials? What were the other insurance that you showed up during the game? Okay. Which had to, here's the thing. Those people, right, who said that they don't care what is reach. You go get enough that all I need is a few.
Good or bad. Good or bad.
Trickle
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the name of the game. And they're smart about it. Because even there, the insurance companies are brilliant with their advertising because nobody wants to buy insurance.
Right.
And nobody wants to like insurance.
Yeah.
But do you hate Flo or Jamie from Progressive? You laugh at them, right? Or Jake from State Farm, they get singing Bon Jovi songs that have been changed and so forth, right? Because they're smart. All they need you to do is say one of those is fun, and now I'm in, and that's it.
Like I always tell people when they say about things, it says, "Yeah, I watched that commercial. I hate it." I said, "But you watched it."
Yep.
You can easily
Watch those.
turn it off, turn down the volume, or even not even walk away. But you had to watch it. Yeah, I watched it, but I hate it. I said, "Then why'd you watch it?" Then I always felt, I said, "You love me." I know how I say about me. Love me, hate me, you'll never forget me. But either way, you're always going to remember the things that you love, the things that you hate, and you're always going to remember them from here until the day you die.
Because you just say this, right? If I say
300.
Yeah.
why do you know that phone number?
They,
You don't know any phone number anymore. You don't know
Yes,
any
I do.
phone number. Anymore. How do you
I
know that?
know. I know exactly.
I know what you
Yeah.
mean. These phones made you dumb, but I do remember that.
Right. And then the question becomes like, do you love it or hate it? You're like, oh, I love it. It's like you're kind of indifferent to it, right? You're
Yeah,
like,
well, you know the number now.
but you know the number,
Yeah.
right? That's how that stuff works. And so the dynamic, you called it subliminal, and they do try to do that. But what really ends up happening is it's just comes through the right brain, not the left brain, the logical left.
Yeah.
So people who have, what they don't understand is like they're upset because they know that commercial went through their right brain and they wanted to put their logical left in to address it and they can't, so they resist back to it. But that's what great advertising does is you can't not absorb it. It's there.
Yeah.
Now you might be, again, somebody can say to me, I'm going to prove to you I'm never going to do it. But you can't tell me they keep doing it because we're losing money to do it. Exactly.
Like O'Reilly.
Right?
Yeah.
Autobuster.
Yeah.
That's the guy I was talking to last week.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
sing it to him. That's
Yeah.
the thing with ads too. Sing it to him. That's where like liberty, liberty, liberty,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
liberty. No,
and
you didn't know liberty 10 years ago.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Nope. I mean, yeah, all that stuff.
Radio is incredibly powerful. Because again, you can sing it. You can sing. Ooh, human beings are like infants. You sing them to sleep and with a jingle in their head. And buy stuff from
Oh, yeah.
them. Really?
Definitely.
I mean, it goes on the radio. I mean, what's the first thing you always listen to when you're a kid? wasn't watching TV. You used to listen to radio TV shows on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
And then it went from TV, and then you're still listening to the radio when you got in the car, or when you're outside doing something outside. You're
Well,
always listening. To
They
the
also know that you have to drive to get to places. And this is where they hit you at.
Yeah. And again, there's another data point that the auto manufacturers have tried to get in with the tech companies. Is they want to sell your data, right? They want your car to be your next cell phone and target you. That's what they want. So they're now trying to remove the radio when the radio satisfaction rate. When they ask people, "Are you happy that you have radio in the car?" 99% of the time they say yes. And the auto manufacturers are like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to remove it. Why? Because they want to now charge. They want to charge for the services inside the car. I just got a new lease. I'm not trying to downplay any dealership. They're not building these cars. It's the manufacturers that are doing this. But you could integrate and sync your phone in the car, and then it's, oh, you've shut the service off for just $299 a month. You can now sync your phone with the car. Why would I do that?
If worst came to worst, they got rid of radio. How would that affect the American, I don't know, the American way of thinking that way?
I just look at what would happen when it comes to emergency services.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just right there. And how many people only get some information, especially local news, by listening to the radio? Right? I mean, people would be far less in tune with what's happening around them without it. And again, and we know the large percentage is in the car. I'm fine with that. You know? But why remove something in the car that 99% satisfied? Because they can't monetize it. Which is, at what point does this stuff get to be ridiculous? When do we get to just buy stuff? That's right. It came from here because I remember they had that little museum, the appliance museum downtown.
Yeah.
And I'm walking through there and I see it. I took a picture and sent it to my sister. I'm like, recognize this? That dishwasher was in my parents' house for like 40 years. And now people buy a dishwasher. The thing doesn't last 40 years.
Yeah.
Because they do it on purpose.
My parents had to buy a brand new refrigerator because the old one finally took a shit, and they had that for 40 years.
Right?
Built to last.
Why can't it still be?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I hate to say I'm telling me conspiracy on that or not, but we're just getting cheaper parts somewhere else, and it's not built the same.
Well, right. I mean,
Yeah.
people they still want to pay the price
Yeah.
for a dishwasher that their parents did.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
problem.
Exactly.
It's like, you're not buying a dishwasher for $700. Or,
Not
not
anymore.
one that's going to work. Because the one that our parents bought was probably $700, right? Back then.
Yeah.
Back then, it was a lot of money back
Oh,
then.
it was a ton.
I mean,
I remember when they bought their first radar.
Yep. They were sticking out a little bit farther out like this. Yes.
Oh yeah, and I remember my parents talking about it. This thing was going to be $600. It's so expensive. What, 1976 or something. It's a lot of money back then than now, right?
Well, even the TV that first came out, the big giant,
Floor model TV.
giant boob tubes. How my
Made
grandfather called it.
Real oak.
Had a stereo in it,
Yeah.
and a liquor can.
Yeah, and you pulled it out. Yes, grandparents had one of those.
You stumble upon those once in a while, and you're like, "Ooh, that looks nice."
Hey, look at that remote control. But
You had to go up and turn the dial. They didn't come with a remote.
That's what children were for.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
With a big giant rabbit ears coming from the back. With tinfoil
Anybody
on it.
listening now, they're thinking that we got here in a horse and buggy.
With tinfoil on it. Man. But I mean, even with radio back then, it was bigger back then
Mhm.
I mean, they were huge. They were on sides of this going down.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
you're
then you
just-
had
yeah.
the stacked stereo system.
Yep.
Back in the day, I remember year after year at Christmas, the next piece, the next component.
Yeah,
Build
yeah.
that thing up.
My
Yeah.
parents still have that. It
Tape
still
deck.
works. Yeah.
Still works.
Oh, yeah, it still works.
Player,
Yeah.
the receiver,
Equalizer.
the equalizer. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think records will come back or come back heavily more than it is now?
I think they'll stay the course of where they're at right now because it's an interesting stat. Is the majority of records bought don't get open.
To keep them as yeah,
As the
yeah,
momentum.
yeah.
I like it. We look over. I look over at ours right here from,
yeah. Yeah.
from Nardo.
Haven't even opened
They
it.
haven't even opened it.
Because they're seen as this tactile special thing that we don't want to take apart. Right? I can listen to it. I go online and listen to it. That's kind of this preserved type of thing. I love vinyl, and I love listening to vinyl. You know, and because it does sound so much better.
I think I have maybe 30 albums at home. And I have that album at home. I haven't even opened it yet.
Yeah, that's good.
Let me give us
Oh, that's right.
both a copy.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's right. That's my copy.
No, you don't.
Yeah, that's my copy. Forgot all about that. Sorry, Nardo.
but it will be interesting to see if there's another wave with music. I'm always curious. If you look at from the 60s to the onset of the smartphone taking over music, you had 8-track, you had vinyl, you had 78, 33 and a third, and 45. You had because that's actually for 8 cassettes were actually artists put their albums on at the time.
Right.
They were for sampling and sharing in smaller form or people to talk to. Then you went into CDs and people were like, oh, CDs were more than they do. CDs came out in 1982. They weren't. That was a long time ago. And
They
so
didn't
you had
last that
vinyl.
long.
No, they really
They
didn't.
didn't last long at all.
And then you look at albums where it's kind of cool that they've come back. The sound, the fact that it holds the sound, it has contextualization of the sound. That's
Yeah.
one of the things I hate about streaming services. And radio doesn't do this. The streaming services compress the music. So there are channels of the song. The songs are layers, right? But because of the amount of data that's going through, they compress them. So songs that you listen to even on vinyl will have more depth to them than the song you ever heard on Spotify, and it's just because they don't have enough wherewithal to push all the data out to do it, and so people are kind of missing it. So you get back to vinyl. If you listen to it, you're gonna have a different experience.
Okay. So of all the shows that you've done, who did you really sound like when you were growing up? You did grow up with Wolfman Jack and everybody else out there like his personality. Did you want to be someone like him when you're in the radio, or did you want to think, I want to be?
The jock that I always thought was cool was Gary Meyer. Remember Steve Dahl, Gary Meyer, and they run.
Yeah.
Went to WLS, and they had a fallout. I always thought that he was really cool, and I always thought he was cool because how he did the weather. 'Cause-
Really?
Yeah, because most jocks, when you're starting in radio, the weather is the first thing that you get to say on a microphone. That's like the first thing. When you're starting on, you go to a radio station back in the day, put you on this time, you're just going to board up basically the show. You're going to make sure that the feed goes in, the commercials play, and all stuff. You do two things. You're going to say, it's 11:50 now, time for ABC News. Blah, 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 blah. That's all you can say. And then they would go to the ABC News, they'd come out to the ABC News, and leave this thing in front of you. It's like you can read this to the weather. Weather's being brought to you by Ultimate Jewelry and Gift, located downtown. Tonight it's going to be 55, a little chilly. Breeze coming out of the west, barometric pressure. Nobody cares about it. But you get to do it because you get to talk, right? Yeah, tomorrow it's going to be cool and say what I always loved about Gary Myers. Like, hey, check out the weather with Gary. Gary, cold.
That's not something I would probably do. Very chilly.
Yeah.
Cold.
Very
It was hot.
Moist. Right? Yeah. So it was always this one or two word kind of answer. So, Gary, how about the weather? Okay. Here's the weather from Gary. And so I always loved that shit from him because it was just a clever thing because everybody's trying to do every inch of the weather. Good. So that was one that really.
But a lot of
really
the
stuck
DJs
with
didn't
me.
like doing that though. Do they?
When you're first
Yeah.
starting, right? To talk, right? And so get a check for that. Shorter. Make it shorter. Gary Meyer. Yep. So Gary Meyer was one. Always like Lynn Bramer in Chicago on WXRT. I always loved that. My goal is to be your best friend in the whole wide world. Hope I do it. So you're just sitting there with this guy's like, I want to be your best friend in the whole wide world, right? And I want to do it. You tell me if I don't. Right? So he was sadly he passed away a few years ago. It's fun that you ever watched the show The Bear.
Yeah.
So in the first season of The Bear, Lynn Bramer on one of the scenes he's talking. That actually kind of that came out about a month after he had passed away. So
Oh,
it was
really?
kind of wild. I actually got teary-eyed listening to it because I hadn't expected to hear Lynn Bramer, right? So you have those jocks, and then another one, Larry Lujak.
Yes.
If you remember Larry Lujak, his show and
A lot of good shows out was. I mean, yeah, then the 90s hit and you had Howard Stern and you had Man Cow and all those ones that you stream in that everybody wanted to be like shock jocks type scenarios.
what's always interesting too when you look back at over the years is anytime anybody became a shock jock, it was the end of the world. It showed the power of radio that if you start pushing the envelope of this is not good. This is not good. You're getting people and they're going to get the wrong ideas, right? Always ended up.
That's who got the hype. That's who got the shows.
Right.
I mean, look at Bob and Tom. I mean, shit, look at them. They killed it with all their little skits and everything. Right? They still played the music.
Money wins.
Yeah, they still played the
Money
music.
does
They did
win.
everything. And I mean, no offense to Howard Stern. I mean, yeah, he was a shock jock, but he was the most driest voice out there. But he knew what would sell. And people hated him for it, and that's why he had so many jobs out there in the life.
Oh yeah, he learned that if he could stir the pot, that would just get going. Right? He was brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, he was at ACC.
That's FCC.
Wait, that's college.
Shit anymore. There's no rules anymore.
Yeah.
You can
But-
bet on football. And you get to play. Have a
Exactly.
nice day, everybody. Just take it to court and get an attorney.
Oh, he's talking about the Texas kid.
Yeah. Sorry.
I
took a
heard that.
left
Wait a
turn
minute.
when you said ACC.
Yeah, but I mean, you have those rules still, but there's ways around the rules. Just don't. You can ride that fine line.
Well, again, that's where
Yeah.
I think radio is going to be this vehicle that is the sample. You're going to get this information. You go there for more, and you can say shit. Nobody's going to threaten your life, right? Silly anymore. But that's what we're doing.
Is there rules that still that deep?
Oh yeah, you get a $20,000 filed.
Oh, really?
Well, Howard Stern. I mean, that was one of the things that not him is fine after fine, and people kept trying to push that envelope. He got like a $3 million fine. Or
I followed him a lot. My mom.
Would that be the end of the shock jock era?
Well, that made it tough because, again, the thing that's really challenging is the shock jock can get the audience, but the advertisers don't want to touch it because they fear that they'll be saying they're okay with that.
Right.
And now, in today's world, I mean, it's different than it was in 2004 when Howard was probably in his biggest heyday, right? But they still are very cautious of that. So that's why I think country music has become so big. It's safe.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
they take a little bit of an edge, they take a guy like Jelly Roll, prison and all this other kind of stuff, and they buttered him up to look like the sweetest guy on earth, right?
He's a big teddy bear.
Right. They're mad at him because he's losing weight because he doesn't look like
Yeah,
a big
he's-
Yeah,
teddy bear.
dude, he does. He looks almost horrible.
I know he was, when he won the Grammy, I think it was. Yeah, he didn't look the same.
Yeah.
He looked totally different from when he started out.
Yeah.
Totally
They don't want that edginess. Give the illusion of edginess, and people are just kind of still eating it up. So
It's just amazing. Radio, DJs, and everything. How things evolve and change, but they're still the same.
Yeah.
Like you said, the rules are still the same, but it's still around. Like you're saying, it's never going to leave. It's never going to change. It might change a little bit, but the rules in the radio still people.
And I'm curious. One of the things I'm kind of waiting on is I've read some articles, blogs, whatever, in the fact that we're in what's called the nostalgia loop, that we're not really moving forward as a culture. We keep grabbing pleasure of the last 60, 80 years
Yeah.
and pulling it forward into the now, right? And so I keep wondering, when is radio going to get that lift in that same light? Like we talked about, vinyl got that lift, right? And I think it's when we give voices to people who are going to matter. That's going, people will find them. Once they find them, they'll go wherever, right? And so it's trying to find those voices and that fine line between funny, entertaining, interesting, but not risky, right? That's a hard combination to find.
Yeah.
Actually, I like what you're saying, and I believe in it. I mean, you're almost spot on what it's going to be like. I do see it. In the future, it's going to be weird.
And what's crazy is I'll talk to people who are co-owners, own other properties in radio, and I talk about this stuff. They think I'm anti-radio. Truthfully, I've been told you're anti-radio. I'm like, I've been in radio since I was 12 years old. What are you talking about? You can't do
That
something
long,
for
yeah,
36
yeah,
years
yeah.
and hate it, and
Yeah,
want it to be
exactly.
eradicated. No, I want to live a new life. You mentioned it. Radio at one point had orchestras in the studio.
Yeah.
That's why it's actually the royalties go to sheet music still to this day, not to the artist. To the person who wrote the sheet music that the artist performs. People don't even know that. They think the artist did. If the artist didn't write the song, they didn't get anything.
Right.
Right? Because that goes back to when there were orchestras inside the studio. And so, and then you had shows, and those shows went to television. And then radio had to find its path at that point. And that's when music started into the fold. And most people don't realize this, but the first played 40 songs. That's why they called it. They only played 40 songs.
Wow.
And how did he figure out the 40 songs? Well, the guy sat in a diner waiting for his girlfriend to get off of work, started hashtagging the songs that people kept playing on the jukebox while he sat there for hours. And that came down to 40 songs.
Wow.
40 songs. And so that's where it all started. They start playing that music.
gem
So
right
there's gonna be something else of that dynamic that happens.
Or it was what was on the radio.
Casey Kasem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Casey Kasem.
Yeah. Always. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that is I always will remember. I love radio, but I don't listen to it now myself. But I really don't drive. So.
Well, that tends to be what happens.
I really don't drive right now.
And for myself, interestingly, I can't listen to my own. What did you say?
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't right. Why are we doing that? I can't. It's not an enjoyable experience at all. So I listen to a radio station out of Chicago, XRT, to an X out of Tijuana, Mexico. Because
Holy wow.
I don't have to worry about them being my station. And the Tijuana station is just this giant signal. That was what it wasn't the one, but that's how Wolfman Jack is in Mexico
Was it really?
pumping into LA. Yeah. So there's all these signals up in Tijuana. It's cheap to buy the equipment. And you don't have to play by the FCC's rules. You're in Mexico.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they would pump that in.
I
Man, these little gems in this being dropped. I didn't realize all this stuff. You just put it out there and how it was.
Yeah, some stuff I knew about Wolfman Jack.
I didn't know that.
My mom loved Wolfman Jack. I always loved it.
Yeah, that's unique voice for radio.
So if you could bring one show on any of your stations, what would it be? And anything that you could just create. Bam.
One show on that's already a radio show?
No, that's or it could be a radio show.
But bring something back that was
Yeah, or bring something back.
It's an interesting question.
Or create.
Well, it would be a lot of fun. I tried to do it actually, to bring back some of the old big jocks of the 70s, early 80s, and get them back on the air because those guys are talented guys and gals. They just did a way about them telling stories and drawing audiences in. And so I like we talked about with Anthony New Jack and that kind of show, like the effort and the work that that craft, that dedication, that commitment to the craft, right? I'm going to get 6 minutes, and I'm going to do more than 6 minutes than most people, right? And they just are so clever. And people get lazy today. They're just like, we'll get another 6 minutes and 20 minutes. We'll do something then. And I'll see it. When I look back on how shows were look at it now, people lean too much on the internet. They go, we'll just go find something to talk about. It's like, I mean, you live inside this world. You have to understand people. You have to get into the rhythm of what makes up, populace around you, who you want to draw to you. So, that kind of. A few back, I got to know a few of them, trying to get them, but we were just too small. Trying to get guys in Chicago to come work here for what I could pay. Yeah. I'm not trying to insult you. It'd be fun. they took it as a little bit of an insult. I'm like, that's right.
Yeah, that might be good on that one.
So, that would be fun. But in today's world, I would love to get like Nazi to do a radio show. Right? That guy's just so laid back and funny and so relatable. Right? Like, nobody hates Nate, right? You can't hate the guy. Maybe he's not your cup of tea. You don't hate him. Right? He's just got this kind of, put off that kind of, even a guy like, who would be a great jock is Bill Burr.
Yeah.
He would be an amazing jock, right? It was a different era. That's probably what he's doing. Yeah. I mean, Dave Chappelle could easily be a jock, right? Absolutely. The comedians and the way they look at the world. That's one of the things I found with the people that I worked with over the years that were the most talented were also either writers or comedians on the side. Like they did that as their regular kind of alternate way of making a living.
How hard is it to get a reach? Like, do you have to think of something as people?
No, if you have a show, you're going to be told you're on an FM station. On the talk station, you have to be able to talk for 44 minutes. And maybe we're somewhere between 38 or 44 minutes with breaks. So you got to know how to set it up, talk about it, close it up, working back, doing that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit podcasting realm. And then when you're on a music music station, you're going to get, and it depends on if it's morning drive or outside of morning drive. Morning drive, you're going to get 7 minutes, maybe 21 minutes, an hour, and have to keep people staying. That's the key. Like, how do I get you to sit through the commercials? How do I get you to sit through the news? How do I get you to sit through the weather? Because I'm so good at setting it up, you're going to want to come back. You can't wait, right? So that skill set's really important. And then if you're not in a morning show, you get 26 seconds between a break and going into a song. And you got to build a relationship. 26 seconds before that ramp up starts. You got to shut up and let the song play. And the good ones know how to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And
true.
so that's the difference. So that part I missed because that's one of the things that's been challenging in the industry is people just want to take easy routes. That was this is. The music's been around so much. I don't need you to tell me it's the Eagles Hotel California. I can listen to the first two. I know it's the Eagles Hotel California. I don't need you to say, all right, coming up here. Eagles. Great song. Never heard before. Call it. No, right?
Desperado.
Right. So, but that you listen to some radio and you'll hear people doing that today. And it's like, well, some people might not know. Sorry.
People
They-
know.
All they got to do is go to their phone
Yeah.
and click, what song is this? It'll tell them if they
Shit, even
You
on
don't have to
cars,
do
they
that.
tell you.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
It's right on the screen.
Right on the
Right on the screen now.
On your phone, everything, right? So what are you going now that you're going to play Eagles Hotel California? What are you going to say? So if you're at the lake, and one of the things that we always do on the lake is you have to tell me something about this song that I may not have known or had forgotten, and I would be glad to know it. First time, that's true, right? And well, how do I do that? Right? Well, do your homework.
Yeah.
Do some research.
Yeah, exactly.
Google it. Right. Well, today it's easy to Google it. Back in the day, it'd be these books, like Stone magazines. It's like, all right, you got to sit and read them and get the interviews and from the horse's mouth and all that kind of stuff, right? So today it's just look it up. Here's the song. What's the information about this? But now find an interesting take and make that take somewhat local, somewhat relevant, somewhat interesting, right? So that I think I'm getting value, I'm getting something. When you listen to it on radio, that was this is. That was this is.
More work. It was definitely harder back in the past to do radio. You actually have to do the research, do the follow work on all the things that you were telling people and engaged. So wow, that's
And the opportunity, and there are some that still do it. For us, they do.
Yeah.
And others they don't do as much about the music as they do about lifestyle. And that's because really what radio is there's little mini lifestyle hubs. Listen to a sports station. If I listen to Score out of Chicago, I'm a Chicago sports fan.
Right.
It's my lifestyle hub, right? You like the Bears, I like the Bears. It's not the Bears time, but they're going to tell us about Hammond, Indiana.
Oh, yeah,
boy,
definitely.
oh boy.
Yeah.
I never knew I'd know someone from Hammond, Indiana. Listen to Chicago.
I still think they're going to go.
either way. I mean, you'll be a Bears fan. They and I, so it doesn't matter. You're not a Packers fan. You get back behind that little.
I'm sorry, Caleb's here. Not know what we feel like far cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Micah Parsons even said in an interview, best player in the NFL.
Uh-oh. You said my best guy.
That was Micah.
But I'll still go back to when he was going against Notre Dame. He picked them off 3 times.
Yeah, I was happy about that. I was happy about that.
I don't care.
I hate
he's a good
UFC. I
quarterback.
hate UFC.
He's a great quarterback, but that game,
Dude,
3 times.
I am happy with that guy as a quarterback. I am happy. I don't care about the nails. Don't give a damn. He is the quarterback. He is.
I think
One
he's going to
step.
have an MVP level season this year.
Yeah. He's going to break that 4,000 yards pass easily. He was like 70 yards
Yeah,
away
if
from last year.
Isn't that the first Bears quarterback to ever do that?
Yes,
Well,
it would be.
He will be.
Well, the Bears did not feel like it's a necessary position. Years.
Yeah. No, Anderson's quit. Jim?
No,
And McMahon wasn't even a great quarterback.
no, not at all.
You're like, my God,
He could take a hit. That's the only thing. He could take a hit.
Take a hit.
He can hit people too. He can never hit it.
He wasn't
Inaccurate.
weakness. Relied on him more than anything.
Great running.
But you look at it. We talk sports. What happens? It unfolds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's where
Prime example right there.
we go back to the radio side. Yeah, that's it. You can lifestyle up. Suddenly, you talk about a topic, everything else disappears, and you can just suddenly understand the world.
Right. There could be squirrel moments all of a sudden. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't.
No, you can't. You can't. I would have.
Clean it up.
I would have to have a meeting with you.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd have to have the manager now. Not me anymore. Not that it never happened.
Yeah.
You gotta wait for it. Nobody
I would have to. If I was on the radio.
Wow.
Well, that's why there's a 7 second delay. With the jump button.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of shows are pre-recorded.
No.
But they're pre-recorded within hours of the show. That's what they don't realize. Yeah. They're pre-recorded that day. And it's even set up to where if something else has to be done, if something's happened or you feel it's relevant to it, they can. So there's a benefit to
Okay.
that. The live part is awesome because you're engaging with the audience. But the audience don't want to engage that way. They want to go online. Feed it in that way.
Yeah.
Getting them to call, that's just tougher and tougher. It's not impossible, but it's tougher and tougher.
Yeah.
So that's where you see a move to recording, but we do it. But it's like you have to do it within an hour or two of the show, giving you flexibility to impact the show.
I noticed that with this here when I watched it. We did it probably about throughout the 2 hours. 15 people watching it on 2 platforms that I watch, going back and in and out, in and out. But then they rewatch it and watch it live, and then it goes to 40, 50, 60. One show, Stevenson's dating the two young ladies. They had the highest so far was like 250 in 2 weeks. I mean, they were phenomenal. So just when they're so busy right now with other shows, but they said they want to come on. And so,
Well, we've moved into
it's
a
weird.
time shift society. Everybody wants it what they want.
Yeah.
Right. So live has a value, but at the same time, people want to know that it's still available at another time.
Yeah, so that's where the internet comes in. It's more convenient. I can always go back, watch some of it, pause it, go back and watch it again.
I also think is who's on. That's the
That
other
has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah. That's whoever's on. Whoever they think, oh wow, I know this person. Let's see what they're all about.
Well, and I'm more so if it's live and I know the only option is live, I'm going to find a way to stick around.
Yeah.
But if I know it's not live, then I'm always evaluating what is the time commitment versus the time available, and then do I want to find a way to capture it and remind myself?
Yeah.
Or
Right.
maybe I'll go back.
Dude, we have our followers that follow us every week and watch us every week. And it's awesome feeling that we have that community behind us. And I have
That's it
people,
exactly.
I have people, yeah, I had
Yeah.
people coming up to me at Ace Hardware. Great show last night. Yep. Who was that person? And I told them again. Oh yeah. And, I mean, it's a good feeling. It is. It's definitely a good feeling that what we do here is making an impact.
And that's
Shocking, but it is.
well, that's the whole point of the podcast is to make an impact on the area around us, whether it's 1 or 500. As long as you somebody's taking something from that and then applying it to their life, that's the goal for me, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to have people come come up to you and say, "Hey, I watched your podcast last night. Great show." It's a great feeling, man. Just when we started back in 2020, right before COVID hit, we had nothing going on until now. It's just a great build-up of a lot of hard work that we had put into it, and when we fell off and came back, and this guy's pushed me, "Hey, get back on." Even people that watch it say, "Hey, you guys need to get back on the podcast. We love watching you guys do it." It's great feeling. Great feeling.
So where do you guys take it from here?
Regional. That's not my goal. And then beyond that, see how far we can go. I want to see a full potential at this high speed, whether it's a high signal or a low signal. As long as we get to that point where we've exhausted all of our knowledge and resources on being the best of what we do. So that's my
Well, mine's a little bit.
and you throwing your ideas at me too as
Yeah.
well.
Mine's a little bit different. I want to still start off small. I would love to have like not a Rick and Morty, but more like when you walk by Good Morning America type, where we're in a storefront, we're talking in front of a storefront all the time, two people about stuff, anything out there, still doing the podcast, but we grab random people and they're watching us do this live show. Everybody, and just keep keep on walking by and wondering what we're doing, and then they come into the store and say hi, how are you doing, how do you like St. Joe, and everything else, and they will probably say I love St. Joe's, and they had the best stuff in town, but
That's one of his best days.
but I'll bite my tongue and say Chicago is fine too, isn't it? But Chicago, from Chicago, but stuff like that where we're still doing it more than we're doing it now. I have a smaller goal, but I would love to do it more often with people and talking and just having a good time. That's all I want. You want almost like roll down. I want.
Just being relevant
Yeah.
in the community. Not only that, just being relevant. Just being there. Hey, these guys are doing something for the people in the area or the region, and they're doing it at a high rate. So
I mean,
that's my goal.
We're already I'm hitting towns from South Haven down to, I think the lowest part right now is Elkhart now. Close to Elkhart, yeah. Because
So
we have people come
we're
from
definitely
Elkhart.
reaching out. So
And then from the other direction, I haven't gone that far out, maybe Edwardsburg. So
Well, it's always important. I mean, when we're building shows, what is it? What's the end in mind, right? What in the end for the user in mind? And in radio, you're kind of held to a standard based on the signal that's enormous and a signal that's small, and the small one's not going to get any farther than it's going to get. Right. But the big ones has a chance to almost overserve. So when I talked about working in Mankato, Minnesota, we had one station, and that station was a 100,000 watt radio station on just shy of 1,000-foot tower. It could be heard in 32 counties in southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. You could drive for 6 consecutive hours north and south and still hear this radio station clear as a bell, right? But could you serve all of that? That's tough.
Yeah.
Different states, different, modes,
different areas,
competing with Minneapolis radio stations. It didn't matter if you could hear us up there because they're not going to care about a radio station in a town 2-3 counties south of them, right?
Yeah.
So who, even with the power of it, who are you trying to serve? And so then it goes back into the lifestyle. What is the lifestyle of the people that you're trying to reach, and what will bring them back again and again and again? So we talked about sports. Even when you listen to the score in Chicago, it's 95% Bears.
Yeah.
And it's 4% Cubs. Maybe it's, 80% Bears, 18% Cubs. And then the final 2% is the Bulls, the Blackhawks,
yeah.
you know, the Sky,
Yeah.
you know, the White Sox, you know, and it's all because again, they understand the lifestyle hub of who they're trying to talk to,
I
right?
think
They're
the
really,
Chicago Fire is probably even higher than some of those.
yeah, you know, the Wolves, they're playing in the
Yeah.
championship. So sometimes you have to you want to go into it and look at it and see what is it that you're trying to do. And it sounds like you're trying to talk to interesting people, you know,
Yeah.
people that have stories to tell. And I think that's really important because that's not embraced enough in our society.
Right.
You know, you look at the advent of AI and all the enthusiasm of what it can do, and it can replace and it can write stories and music and, you know, shows and do movies and all this other kind of stuff. But really human beings going through millennia have passed stories on. Past stories
Oh,
on.
yeah,
So
definitely.
what are the stories, right? That's, you know, that matters more so than anything else. And I think a gift, just if I can offer it as a perspective, is keep sharing the stories, find those stories, share those stories, and then encapsulate those stories in some way, right? You take your website, take your YouTube channel, find the commonalities, right? These are going to be in this kind of scope, if that at all can come into play, right?
Yeah.
And keep making the sharing of stories and the interest of stories, and you're kind of the keeper of those stories. That's a gift because most people aren't doing that.
That is actually one thing that we do is we get the story out of people or we ask them questions, and half the time they say, wow, that's a good question to ask. I didn't think about that. Or like when we had these people here on, they told their story about how he was in Germany and how he built a lot of these things and had the stories alone that he was telling us
Yeah.
were very deep and detailed.
Well, it's travels all over the world
Yeah.
and different countries and everything, and the stuff that he did during the Vietnam War and things of that nature. It's I don't know, it's small things like that you don't recognize, especially when they get older in
Mhm.
life. And when they tell those stories, it's important that we get those stories from the elderly to pass on to our children, and their
Yes.
children pass it on to them, and so on and so forth. It's I don't know, just it makes me happy to hear stories like that. And we, like you said, we have gotten away from that, and we need to recapture that and pass it on.
And humanizing people.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's really important. And we live in a society that unfortunately, there's a lot of villainizing.
Yeah.
You know, they're bad, we're good, whatever it is. And it's just that doesn't really make a society healthy, whether we want to admit
True.
that or
Right.
not. Right. And so how do we humanize ourselves so that we're more than just the perception that people have of who we are, right? The depth of it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, once I was asked this question, it was like, so why do you think you got into radio? Like, you could have done a lot of things. You could have just walked away. You didn't do it. And I thought about that. It's like, well, I grew up in a house that had, you know, like anybody else's house had good, and it had some really, really, really effing bad.
Yeah.
And I know what I'd do is when it got bad, I turned up the radio. I'd sit in my room, I'd turn up the radio, and I would listen to that and those jocks were my companions because I couldn't go out there. It wasn't safe out there.
Yeah.
Safer in here. Right. And then it would get into a routine. Well, that would always happen at this time. This was always going to flare up about then. And that's when Bob Stroud's on. So I'm going to go hang out with Bob now. Right. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And then it would play
Yeah.
the music, and it would be, you know, so I had this affinity towards it that I never even realized until that question got posed. Like it was my savior and my escape. And I always had a soft spot for it. So I've always wanted to take care of it and share it and bring it to life.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody else sitting out there
Yeah.
that has to escape for whatever reason, we could create something that offers that escape. Right.
I think that's why I love doing this with him. This not just because of hearing people's stories. In my eyes, for me, it's knowing that the story is getting out. It doesn't matter if I get the one viewer just to watch that one person talk. They had the balls to come on the show, tell their life story to us, or tell them what their job is and what they like to do. And if they get 167 people watching that throughout the year or whatever, but they still told their story to us, and we appreciate it. We respect it. And we got to hear it. and get it off their chest.
Mhm.
That's what I love.
And a lot of people come in with the impression that 2 hours is a long time to talk. And once they sit down in that seat and we start talking, they loosen up.
Mhm.
Oh,
They send
this is
the
comfortable.
slip in like a nice warm bath
Yep.
and open up. I wish that. But that's person that comes on, they can actually talk for that long, then they open up and start telling their story. That's the beauty of it.
Well, and part of that is because people really don't listen. And when you get into a forum like this, at a certain point, you realize you're listening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And listening in more ways than you typically do, right? And you're listening attentively. You're hearing tone.
Mhm.
You're hearing pattern,
Yeah.
pace, all those kinds of things. Because we're all moving so fast that we're not really paying attention to that. I mean, we're hearing, but we're not paying attention.
Exactly.
And that gives that opportunity for that to happen. And again, helps humanize people.
All right. On that note, we're going to do what we call the last call.
All right.
What we do on last calls, you can do shout outs to anybody you want and anything that's upcoming in your life in the near future. We'll pass it around the table.
All right. Let's see. Anything, shout outs. Let's see. I should, my buddy that I grew up with in Chicago, I'm going to make sure he listens to this after the fact. And so that's Tim. So, hey, Gano, I put your name, out here in the universe. You
Thank
should
you.
be happy about that, right?
Thank you. We
So,
appreciate it.
anything that I'm doing, you know what? I'm just liking life right now. I've kind of pulled it back and made it a little bit easier for myself. I ask people to keep listening to the radio, keep giving us feedback. We care about the community immensely. It matters to us. And, and we're open to ideas and anybody, as we talked about, if somebody wants to play radio, reach out to us. I
Okay.
mean, my email is pretty easy. It's Dave with my last name initial D. So DAVED, not ID, at WIRX.com. So if you want to learn about radio and how could you play radio and be a part of it, let us know, because that's how this kind of works. I accidentally got into it and maybe they will too.
There you go.
Hmm.
Joe?
I want to say thank you for coming out, Dave. It's a privilege and an honor to hear your story and how you got into everything. And it was breathtaking a little bit because we learned a lot. We got to know you more and we learned again. And for what you've been through your life, I give you credit. I mean, it's awesome. And I want to say thank you for coming out, and I hope we get to have you back on.
Well, thank you very much.
you.
I appreciate that. You give me some goosebumps here in the positive, so I appreciate it. When you're the boss, you don't get that a lot.
Right.
It's nice to come in and get the good.
Dave, like Joe said, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it so much. It's an opportunity to hear from somebody that's gone through it already and to give us a right direction on where we need to go. You've done that. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you.
Another thing, we want to have you back on sometime soon.
Absolutely. I
And,
have all kinds of other topics.
Yeah,
So
we can definitely get into that. And once again, like I said, thanks for the advice, for the stories, and just the overall opportunity to meet you. And this is I didn't know who you were at first. Now I do.
well, it's good to know you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
I'm glad we got to do this, guys.
Joe, who we got on tomorrow? Yeah, Wednesday.
Wednesday, actually.
Oh,
he
yeah.
had a reschedule. It was going to be Dave Carlock.
Oh, I know Dave. Yeah.
But then on June 19th is our race.
Oh yeah. The moment of truth. We have a mile obstacle course race that we have to attend to. Joe says he can beat me
I'm gonna
in
beat
this
you.
race. So
It's okay.
we'll
Is it
find-
at that dog park? over
Yeah.
there?
No. Is it?
The wood. Yeah, it's the
Is it?
woods. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the woods.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that, and
That's smart.
Over there.
mm,
Yep.
but a couple of 40+ guys.
I wouldn't do
it.
Then on
Somebody's gonna
Monday,
get hurt.
on next Monday, we have Rock Dogs, the lead singer from Rock Dogs, and then Dog Slinger.
All right, there we go, guys. Once again, guys, thanks for joining us tonight. This is 191 episodes. Dave Deutsch has joined us from WSJM. Guys, please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and all that good stuff for us. We're going to get out of here. See you on Wednesday at 8 p.m. and Monday after that at 8 p.m. as well, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get out of here. Thank Dave for joining us once again.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna get going. Oh, Scott, thanks so much for Scott too, man. He's been doing the work behind the scenes. He gets no recognition, only from Joe every time. Jeez, can leave him alone. All right, guys, we're getting out of here. See you tomorrow, not tomorrow, but Wednesday, 8 p.m. All right, guys, see you later.